That's a load of science.
Hello, everybody. This is Alessio De Simone. You are listening to That's a Lot of Science, the podcast about STEM latest and greatest for people who love science and everything about it. Today, we are talking about a very important field in the area of drug discovery, which is computational chemistry. And we are doing this with Julian Michel, professor of biomolecular simulation at the University of Edinburgh in the UK. So we have here a big expert in the topic. So first of all, Julian, thank you very much for being here with us today and for accepting our invite to talk about this very interesting topic.
My pleasure.
And so let's start with the first basic, let's say, question. What is computational chemistry? How it is used today in drug discovery? What are the approaches? What are the techniques that you usually use in your daily life as a computational chemist in academia?
Yeah, certainly, Alessio. So computational chemistry is really a branch. You could say it's a branch of chemistry that uses computers to model chemical processes. So it's very general and could apply to any branch of chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably trace back the origin of computational chemistry to development in statistical physics or quantum theory in the late 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. And really the idea, I've been around for a long time, but they could only started to be used practically once computers were invented, roughly after the Second World War, because it became apparent that realistic description of molecules that would allow somebody to compute interesting properties like energy or other things needed very numerically intensive calculations. So it was impossible to do this without the help of a computer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, I guess, nowadays, computational chemistry in drug discovery has become, I guess, a very essential component of the early stage of drug discovery. So typically, while computation can play a role at every point, computational chemists tend to be more involved with the early stage of preclinical drug discovery. And they tend to work closely with medicinal chemists, structural biologists, or cell biologists to discover and optimize molecule. Oftentimes, an area where computational chemists have more input is the binding of man-made molecule to a biological molecule, typically a protein. But there are other properties where computation can help play a role to increase the chance that you can accelerate faster towards identifying a molecule that could be tested in humans.
And that is great. No, I mean, and very interesting. Like also the interdisciplinary approach that you have in, as a computational chemist, you have to face with different people as well, like, experimental chemists in the lab, biologists, and also like, in vivo and in vitro pharmacologists. So the way that computer science can be applied to any specific aspects on all along the way that we know it's a very long way towards the drug discovery to have like the final medicine in the hospitals. And you also talk a lot about the history of the computational chemistry and how did you see the last, let's focus on the last 10 years, like the number of techniques that are coming up and the type of novel, quantum computing, AI. How do you see that impacting on your daily life as a computational chemist?
Um, yeah, so I guess more, kind of more recent development in the field. I think you can maybe a typical task in computational chemistry for drug discovery is to carry out virtual screens of millions or billions of candidate molecules against a model of a protein target. And then the goal is to identify a potential binder. And in essence, this can be done quickly and inexpensively on a computer versus the cost of actually doing this in a wet lab. So then you use this kind of model to only progress to experiment compounds that show potential. So this approach has been around for a few decades. What I think we're starting to see, especially in the recent years, is the use of so-called free energy perturbation methodology to carry out this process. And this is a form of computer modeling that captures a lot of the details that are important to determine whether a small molecule will bind to a protein. And certainly these techniques, and I've worked with them for a long time. And maybe at the beginning of my academic career, that they weren't used at all outside of a few academic groups. Because they were too slow, very difficult to deploy. And what we've seen in the last 10 years is we've seen rapid adoption of this technology in the pharmaceutical industry. And we're seeing increasingly this sort of FEP workflow replace traditional screening approach. And I think it's always difficult to quantify that, but the general feeling is that this has led to higher success rates in drug discovery project. Maybe fewer compounds made until before you find a potent molecule. To illustrate, as you I'm sure you know, a few years ago, my group used this kind of techniques together with experiment in the lab to help design a class of cyclophilin small molecule inhibitors that target a novel pocket on this protein. And this was really helpful to come up with compound with differentiated properties, and we're currently still progressing these molecules towards in vivo efficacy studies to this day.
And how it can help also in the following steps, because now we have seen the use of these kind of techniques at the very beginning, when you have to design the molecule, and also let's say when you have your first hit, let's say the hit to lead phase. But there is approach also towards the lead optimization phase when you are already looking for preclinical preclinical test of this molecule.
So some of the issues, for instance, that we are dealing with in our lead optimization program is to do with binding selectivity. So you may have a compound that binds potently to a target protein, but there may be related proteins that you shouldn't bind to, and they may be structurally similar. And really understanding selectivity is can be done by understanding binding affinity to multiple targets. We've also seen that as the focus advances and typically potency is achieved early on, other drug-like properties such as metabolic stability, potential toxicity associated with a reactive functional group may require tweaking an initial scaffold. And it's always helpful to be able to use the initial model to ensure that whatever modification you introduce do not hurt your affinity. And moving on, there are of course other models that can be used to make prediction about other properties that are a bit more difficult to model in a kind of high-level atomistic detail. You can turn to various form of data-driven approach or machine learning approach that will infer properties based on a prior similar molecule with good properties.
Yeah, so it's about being able to analyze a lot of data in in an optimized manner as well, because of course here, based on the existing knowledge, you can try to build a model that will be able to predict the features that your future molecule will have. So this is something that is not only related exactly to the activity itself, but as you said, like selectivity, physicochemical properties. So how computational, I mean, like this kind of computational chemistry techniques can be applied to any stage along the drug discovery process. And moving into more like your world, so the academic world, how this is, I mean, usually academia is seen as the place for innovation and where all these things happens more than, probably more than company maybe. How this is approached in academia in terms of, being able to develop these sort of novel techniques, or, I mean, is there like a collaboration in place between groups, the consortium or association in the fields that you can share the knowledge among academias, among researchers all over the world?
But before moving forward, a word from our sponsor, IDM Insight. IDM Insight is an interactive intelligence platform that brings the latest pharmaceutical AI innovation to early drug discovery and clinical teams, pairing the latest technological advancements from AWS Cloud and cutting-edge science disciplines. Insight is able to save drug development and clinical teams time and money by simplifying your interactions with intelligence data and AI solution into one centralized platform. Check out the platform for yourself at idm-insight.com. That's idm-insight.com.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, it's in academia, the focus, I mean, the contribution of academia to drug discovery tend not to be actual discovery of new drugs, but enabling methodology and proof of concept work, which then low de-risk a bit effort to venture into this in the private sector. So in terms of how this kind of academic research is done, it can be supported by a wide variety of mechanisms. It can be government funding bodies, biomedical charities. We also see a lot of, in my group, we have a lot of research collaboration with pharmaceutical companies who are interested in supporting research in new methodologies that may, maybe 5 years in the future have an impact on the way internal R&D projects are run. It's also a way of doing knowledge exchange, keeping industrial scientists aware of new development, and helping training the next generation of scientists so that they get to the job market, and if they're looking for a career in the pharmaceutical sector, if they've already been thinking a lot about these issues in an academic setting, then it usually helps them transition to a career outside of academia. So that's a variety of funding mechanisms. And you can also see there's some example of academic consortia who will try to share knowledge generated in different groups, make it accessible, provide training resources. Myself do a lot of work with a consortium in the UK called CCP Biosim that aims to help lower the barrier for adopting new technologies. And I see that as part of the mission of academic research.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And this is extremely important also, as you say, like to bridge the gap between the academia and the company, also for like novel generation of scientists that want to start a career and might find this, I mean, getting straight out of academia can be sometimes challenging, and limiting for them. So it is very important the opportunities that they can provide in terms of helping to address this sort of challenge, of course. And yeah, I mean, definitely important to have this sort of consortium. That's important to have funding as well. And what are like the kind of let's say challenges that you are more facing now in terms of research? Is there like you see we are in a situation now where the interest is growing towards these specific aspects of and these specific techniques, or it's more like I mean a challenging time also to get funding, to get projects to move forward in the academia?
I think it always ebbs and flows a little bit in academia. Generally, academic researcher, can get funding for proof of concept and novel ideas. So that means there is a tendency to keep moving on towards new objectives once you have demonstrated something. In terms of securing funding, there's really a variety of routes. A few years ago, my group was funded significantly by the European Union. Nowadays, it's currently mainly through academic industry collaborations, but things may very well be different in 3 years from now.
Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, there's always been high and low also in securing funding and proceeding of projects. Okay. And yeah, moving a little bit more into the novel techniques like the AI, we touch upon machine learning. Like, do you see this more of a concern? Also, like there are a lot of ethical concern in using, for example, AI or large language model for writing papers or for conducting research. What is the position like currently in the academia and about the ethical concern of using this sort of technique in novel, also like generative AI tool for novel molecules or for novel procedure or for scientific articles and these kind of things?
So yeah, we're seeing. I see this as a tool that is, permeating and is going to become ubiquitous. And then I think the discussion are happening now because they are novel, but nobody will be thinking about it in a few years from now. Nobody takes any issues that we use a computer to write a Word document. I even said the term Word document to show how embedded it is in our practice. Of course, it goes into question, how to use effectively the tools, how to make creative use of the technology. I can see, give you some concrete example. Many of my students now use AI to help them with writing their code. I use AI to proofread documents. These are very low-hanging fruit tools, and they help accelerate productivity. So that on its own is absolutely fine. The issue is potential risk with being unable to assess the quality of the output. And so there is still a need to learn to be to learn your subject matter so that you know whether you can work with the data provided by the model. So I see very much this as an imperfect co-pilot in our day-to-day activities. And more academically, this is also raising important question, how we should be teaching chemistry to undergraduates. And this is clearly, the way you can retrieve information is changing. The way you can demonstrate, you assimilate knowledge is going to have to change. And so one of the things we do in our university is to seek together between colleagues how the practice of teaching chemistry is going to change, so that we can still empower people to use AI in their day-to-day work in the future.
Exactly. I mean, and this in academia becomes even more important because, as you can say, I mean, there is all the teaching aspects associated with it, and let's say the new generation of students will be already, I wouldn't say familiar, but at least quite used to being exposed this kind of technology. So, I mean, how the teaching is changing towards these people, and the message that, academics all over the world needs to start thinking about when they face this sort of technology and they use it, hopefully efficiently also in the teaching. So you don't see like essay written by ChatGPT yet in your class.
So I think we have previously were already giving emphasis to problem-solving approach. We had some concerns a few years ago. I think during the pandemic we had to switch to online assessment, and then we decided to use open book approach, which I think overall was well received. And had already moved us away from assessing ability to recall facts. Tools that can demonstrate integration of facts in an essay. Obviously, that couldn't be level playing necessarily, but I think we can easily turn that around. So I've suggested in the past, for instance, that the question, instead of writing an essay, might be, here is an essay written by ChatGPT. Can you explain where there are 5 mistakes in that essay?
Yeah, that can be valid. Yeah, a validation process over the ChatGPT approach of writing stuff. Yeah, that's another way. Yeah, to look at it. I mean, it can be a nice exercise as well to also, improve the quality of the data that are or the products that are generated from these kind of tools. No, that is very, very interesting. And staying on this topic, what are like the advice that you would give to the people that are now starting a career in these fields? Maybe they're still studying at the master degree or the bachelor degree in chemistry, and they want to probably they see an opportunity in, given the exposure that they have to this novel technology, to start a career in computational chemistry, and to see like what are the expectations and what are the opportunities also for them to start now and what they need to think about when they want to start a career in this field.
Okay. So I guess generally for career in drug discovery around computational methods, I think what struck me as that we see a lot of new research, new paper, new advance in artificial intelligence and the like, that they do sound impressive, but we shouldn't forget that drug discovery is a very interdisciplinary endeavor, and having good tools is important, but probably what is even more important is being able to work effectively in team, to be able to share knowledge and data with other scientists from different disciplines. There's, we have to be quite humble. If you look at, attrition rates across over all therapeutic areas, we still have, maybe 90% or more failure rate. So these are all molecules that look good in the hand of a scientist, and then they go into clinical study and then they fail. So there are big gaps in our knowledge, and I do not believe they will be fixed overnight. And so in order really to, I think, to navigate this kind of territory, I think it's important to be technically good about what you bring to the table. So if you're a computational chemist, there's a lot of computational methods out there, but none of them are going to be universally applicable. And so you need to know what is the right tool for the right problem at the right moment. And then you can't just be the expert in your own corner. You need to learn a bit of the vocabulary of the other people you have to work with in a team, the people who synthesize the molecules, the people who make experiment with them. So be curious, be open to learn about things, go out of your comfort zone. I think that's useful to help navigate a career in drug discovery.
That's great. No, that's a great message out there. I mean, I was one of that laboratory person in my past, as you know, and in particular the message of like being humble, because I mean the failure rate in these fields is very high, and you rarely see one of your molecule that you synthesize or that you design go like really far in the clinical trial, and maybe even if they reach the clinical trial, you see that they might fail there. So it's always important to keep the confidence about keep learning from the mistakes, keep innovate, and as you all also said, it is very important, like the curiosity, to be curious, to see out what is outside of the little corner that you work on. It's that is a really great message as well. I think, I mean, I'm not an expert in any fields, but the failure rate in drug discovery is probably one of the highest, and that's why there is a lot of, also because the time and the cost associated with it are very high. So you want to make sure that you are doing always the right thing. And we are talking also about the health of people. So of course, always moving towards the right direction is important. But yeah, I mean, it's always important to learn from the mistake, learn from the past, and get to a novel project again with new confidence, new hope towards. I mean, it's always nice to see, also in students that they feel like they can be they can have the next breakthrough in the drug discovery world, and this is nice to see. But it's also important to teach them that this is hard to get, and they don't. And they have to live with it for their career. So it's important to learn it as soon as possible from day one. Okay, no, I mean, this is a great take-home message for everyone out there that is seeking to start a career in this world. We talk a lot about what it takes. We talk a lot about how many techniques are currently involved, how many expertises are needed to bring a molecule towards all the steps to the clinic and to the patients. So again, learn a lot about different topics, not only computer science, but chemistry, biology, pharmacology, medicine. These are all important. And I mean, what else to say? I mean, keep curious, keep humble. And,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, then. I mean, I think it was a very interesting conversation, Julian. I want to thank you again for participate, and thank you all for listening.
My pleasure.
Thanks, and I will say hello to everyone and speak soon with another episode. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, bye-bye.